What's up guys, Coach Thomas here for Gameday Performance, and today we're going to be going over horizontal pulling. Let's get into it. So when we talk about horizontal pulling, all we're really talking about is taking an object and pulling it into our body from away from us, right? So you can think about exercises like rowing, right? So any sort of row, be it a bodyweight row with the suspension device here that I'm going to show you in just a second, or maybe it's a bent over barbell row. So we're leaning over in that hinge position and then pulling our barbell up from the floor into our belly button, right? So those are the exercises we're going to be going over, and I'll take you through a progression that will kind of lead you through each exercise and help you grow through that horizontal row pattern. The first exercise we're going to introduce in the horizontal pulling pattern is just going to be a bodyweight row, right? So typically what you'll see for a bodyweight row is going to be some sort of suspension training device like this. It could also be something like a TRX or even gymnastic rings. You can see like wooden gymnastic rings hanging in a lot of gym because those also have a lot of uses, right? But today we're just going to be using just like these suspension trainers. I'm not even sure what these are called. I think they're like jungle gym or something. But basically we can do a lot of different variations with this, but primarily we're going to use this for horizontal pulling, okay? Another thing you can do also if you don't have a suspension trainer like this is you can adjust the height of your rack. Just move your J-hook down a little bit, and then you can just put a barbell within that J-hook, and basically you can lean this way so the bar is pulling into the rack and do a body weight row that way, right? So that's another way we can do it. I like the suspension training device a little bit better just because it allows you to independently move your hands and you're not fixed into a barbell. So we can get a little bit extra shoulder work while we do this, which is really good for athletic training, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and put that back. Basically, these guys are adjustable, okay? So you can adjust the strap length, pull it down, you can raise it, okay? And everyone's is gonna be slightly different, right? So everyone has different limb lengths. The rack heights might be a little bit different. Where you have them anchored might be a little bit different. So just adjust it to whatever works best for you and your positioning, right? For me, this is a pretty good position for what we're gonna do right now. And that's basically just gonna be a 45-degree angle. This is usually where I'll start people just to kind of see where they're at. If they can't do this, they can always adjust back a little bit. So first I'm gonna set up with my feet directly under wherever the mounting point is. So I'm right underneath where these straps are mounted up here, okay? From there, I can just grab the handles and go ahead and lean back, okay? I'm gonna keep my hips up nice and tall. I'm gonna anchor my heels down into the floor so they're not sliding anywhere. And then from there, I can just pull up to my rib cage and come on down, okay? So this is the most basic version. If you needed to make it easier, you could always just walk your feet back just a little bit more and do a little bit of pull there, okay? And if you wanted to make it harder, you can walk your feet down lower, get underneath it a little bit more and pull up, okay? So with that, you can always adjust the difficulty for whatever you need. Ideally, I'd like it as low as you're able to for whatever the amount of reps are prescribed, right? So always make it the most challenging variation that you're able to accomplish the number of reps with, right? That way we're always getting stronger and pushing a little bit further, okay? The other thing about this that I like to do personally is I like to rotate my hands around as I pull, okay? So I'll start at the top, my hands internally rotated, so rotating my arms inward, think thumbs down towards the floor, and then as I pull my pinkies in to my rib cage, okay? So we're getting internal rotation at the top, external rotation at the bottom when we pull in, okay? And basically what you can think about with that is we're getting a little bit of extra shoulder training as we do our row, okay? So I'll go ahead and show you one of those. Basically, I'm gonna set up in that same position, walk my feet down into that 45-degree angle, or rotate my hands inward so the backs of my hands are facing each other. And then from there, as I pull, I'm gonna pull up to my chest, rotate my pinkies towards my rib cage, and just roll on through with my reps like that. So another really cool thing about the bodyweight suspension row is that we can infinitely progress this all the way into getting all the way underneath the rings and actually elevating our feet on a bench. Okay, so this would be the hardest variation of this that you could do. Okay, a lot of people struggle with this one and can't do a whole lot of reps with it, and that's okay. We can kind of build this as we go and try and get more reps. And once we get really strong with this exercise, then we can move on to other weighted exercises. Okay, so basically what you do is now I'm gonna face the other way, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and face away from the rack. I'm gonna go ahead and grip my rings, and then from there, step underneath. I'm just gonna put my feet on top of the bench, okay? From here, I'm just gonna bring my hips up nice and high, rotate those hands inward just like I did on my other ones, and then pull all the way up into my rib cage, slowly lower down under control, and just work through reps that way, okay? So that's how we can make the bodyweight row a very, very challenging exercise and still get a lot of work done, okay? And that is the bodyweight suspension row. Another exercise that I like to introduce at the same time as the bodyweight suspension row is actually a single arm dumbbell row. And I like to introduce that at the same time because we're still training that horizontal pull, but now we're getting just a single side at a time, okay? And we can really focus on what each arm is doing independently of each other, okay? So first variation, there's a couple different ways you can set up a single arm dumbbell row, but the first variation is actually just gonna be on a bench, and I'm gonna take my knee and go ahead and put it on the bench, okay? My dumbbell's down on the floor. I'm gonna go ahead and step my foot out a little bit wider so I have a nice stable base of support. And then I'm gonna take my hand and I'm gonna put it all the way here at the end of the bench, okay? So that's my right hand, which means my left hand is gonna be the one that's pulling the weight in, okay? All I'm gonna do to set up, I'm gonna go ahead and grab the dumbbell. I'm gonna lift it off the floor just by rotating my body so it's nice and flat, okay? So I keep a nice flat back, neutral spine here. And then from there, gripping the dumbbell tight, I'm gonna go ahead and pull into my rib cage, slowly lower down, rotate down just a little bit with my shoulder blade, get a big stretch out of my lat, and then pull up into the next rep, okay? And I can just continue on whatever tempo, however many reps I wanna do. And that's just gonna be a traditional single arm dumbbell row. Okay. The other way I could do this is called a 3-point row. Okay. 3-point row I find useful just when there's not a whole lot of benches to go around, kind of like our facility, and we have to get a lot of athletes going all at the same time, right? So a 3-point row, you're pretty much going to be in the same setup position, but now you don't need to use the whole bench. Okay. I can just go ahead and take this little edge right here, and then somebody else can be on that side doing the same thing. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and plant my right hand on the bench. I'm gonna scoot my feet back and bend my knees just a little bit. So I'm in a good setup position where I have a nice neutral spine and I'm about as horizontal to the floor as I can get. So parallel to the floor as best as I possibly can. From there, I'm gonna do that same exact thing that I did on the other single arm dumbbell row. Just go ahead and lift off first and then go ahead and get a big stretch there. Pull, come back down, big stretch, pull, come back down. Okay. I'm not looking for a whole lot of body movement as we do this, right? Everything should stay nice and stable, but it's okay to let that shoulder blade kind of drop out a little bit at the bottom, get a big stretch in your lat, and then come back up, okay? So our next variation of weighted rowing is actually going to be a dumbbell bent over row, okay? So we're just gradually increasing the load, gradually progressing up, okay? Now, bent over row kind of requires you to be in a very good hinging position. So if you haven't yet watched our hip hinge video, make sure you go check that out and you know how to get into a proper hip hinge, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and start in between the dumbbells, set my feet just about hip width apart, okay? And then from there, I can go ahead and hinge down, pick up my dumbbells with a good deadlift, and then stand up nice and tall, okay? After this, I'm gonna think about doing an RDL, so a Romanian deadlift. I'm just gonna go ahead and unlock my knees, hinge forward at my hips until my dumbbells are down here and I'm as close to horizontal as possible with my torso or parallel to the floor. From there, I can just go ahead and do my same rowing motion, pull into my rib cage, slowly come down, okay? At the top, think about squeezing your shoulder blades together and then go ahead and come down and get a big stretch, okay? So that is our dumbbell bent over row. Again, make sure you have a really good foundational hip hinge pattern before you start this exercise. So now we'll continue progressing up our weighted row, and this next one's going to be a barbell bent over row, okay? Again, This can be a little bit more challenging, especially if you haven't developed a very good hip hinge. So make sure that you can get into a good position where your torso is almost parallel to the floor before you start this, okay? Another note is that the barbell is tied together from side to side. You can't independently move each side like dumbbells, right? So with that in mind, the barbell can't pass through your body. So you need to make sure you're doing your best to keep it as close to your center of mass throughout this exercise as possible, right? As you come down to the bottom, you don't want to let that barbell drift out away from your body. You want to keep it close and try and keep it very, very tight to our center of mass, okay? So first thing we're going to do is go ahead and pick this up with a deadlift, right? So I'm gonna get into my same deadlift position, just like this is a really, really heavy barbell. Let's just say it's like 400 something pounds, right? I wanna make sure that pattern is still set. So I'm not just picking it up like this, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and get down into a proper deadlift start position, get my grip set, and then I can go ahead and deadlift it up. Once I'm set at the top, now I can go ahead and unlock my knees, hinge down like an RDL, down to the bottom, wherever that takes me. Hopefully I'm parallel to the floor. And now I can just pull that barbell up into my belly button, okay? And this is our bent over row. You can get a little bit of extra stretch at the bottom if you let your shoulders relax just a little bit, and then activate them and pull back in, okay? Once you're done, you can go ahead and just set the barbell down on the floor and stand up, okay? So again, you can see if you don't have a very good hinge developed and you're rounded back as you're trying to get down, this is not gonna be a good exercise for you. Another thing is that if you're too tall, you're probably not getting a very good benefit out of it. So you don't get the stretch at the bottom, not really using your lats, okay, your big back muscles here. So what I see a lot of people do when they do this is they'll go ahead and stand up, and then they just hinge down to like right here, and then they're just kind of shrugging, right? So what that's doing is it's activating our upper traps, which really isn't the target muscle for this. Instead, we want down here, mid back, lats, okay? All those big muscles, trying to get those stronger, okay? We already do enough stuff to keep us shrugged up here. We don't need to do that as much in this exercise, okay? Again, horizontal pull, we're trying to pull horizontally into our body, not up, okay? So that is the barbell bent over row. Once you developed a lot of strength in that rowing pattern, okay, and we've built up our bent over row to get really, really strong, we have a really good foundational hinge pattern, we can lean all the way over. Now we can start adding a little bit of explosivity to this, right? So we don't just want to keep this just a hypertrophy movement where we're staying slow and controlled. That's not going to benefit us very much in sport, right? At some point, we need to be able to move heavy objects fast, right? So our next exercise that we're going to introduce to help you out with this is called a Pendlay row, okay? So a Pendlay row actually starts with the barbell down on the floor, and you're going to go ahead and rip it as hard as you can off the ground, okay? So I still need to set up in a very good start position. Again, if you don't have the hamstring flexibility to get down there, you're probably not going to be doing this exercise, or we need to do it off of blocks or plates or something to elevate the barbell up a little bit higher, okay? So first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get into as close to the barbell as I can. I'm gonna get into a proper hip hinge pattern, okay? So just set my hands on the barbell, get my back nice and flat, everything's nice and tight. From here, I'm going to accelerate the bar up into my belly button as fast as I possibly can. And then I'm just gonna set it back down, okay? So I'm not really worried about controlling anything or controlling the lowering portion. All I'm concerned about is how fast I can move that barbell on the way up, okay? So I'm gonna be as explosive as possible, get set, get nice and tight, big fast pull, and we're developing explosiveness through our back, okay? So that is the Pendlay row. That's as far as we go pretty much with our basic progression. There are thousands of other rowing variations that we could do and start to incorporate as well, but this is just the foundational patterns that we do in our horizontal pulling series. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you learned something today. Stick with us for the next one. We'll see you guys soon.